Near a dried riverbed, a mother dog whimpers softly, her puppies barely holding on. When a boy hears their faint cries, he faces a choice that could mean life or death for the little family. The DD riverbed stretched endlessly under the scorching sun. Cracked earth spread like a spiderweb, the ground long abandoned by the water. It once held in the silence of the barren landscape. A faint sound broke through, soft, almost too weak to notice. It was a whimper, quiet but full of pain and hunger. Near a patch of brittle grass, it was a quiet whimper, lay a mother dog, her thin body curled protectively around her three tiny puppies. Her ribs showed clearly through her dull dust-covered fur, and her head rested wearily on the cracked soil. The puppies squirmed weakly against her side, their tiny mouths searching for milk that she could no longer provide. Her eyes, dark and sunken, scanned the emptiness around her. There was no shade, no food, no water, only the relentless heat and the distant hum of insects. She let out another soft whimper, almost as if calling for help, though no one had come for days. Hours earlier she had walked miles under the blistering sun, her puppies barely able to keep up. She had been searching for water, for anything that could keep them alive, but all she had found was this dried riverbed, a cruel reminder of what used to be. Her legs had finally given out, and she had collapsed, gathering her pups close and praying for someone to save them. In the distance, a bicycle creaked along the dusty road. 13-year-old Ravi squinted against the glare of the sun, his small figure hunched over the handlebars. His clothes were simple, patched in places, and his face was flushed from the heat. He was on his way home from gathering firewood near the forest edge. As he pedaled, his sharp ears caught a strange sound. He slowed down the mother dog, the bike wobbling slightly, and listened. The sound came again, a faint, pitiful whimper. Ravi stopped, wiped the sweat from his brow, and looked around. At first he saw nothing but dry earth and the shadow of a lone tree. Then he spotted them. The mother dog lifted her head weakly, her eyes meeting Ravi's. For a moment they stared at each other, the boy and the dog, as if trying to understand what the other was thinking. Ravi's gaze shifted to the puppies, their tiny bodies barely moving. He hesitated. His family didn't have much. They struggled just to feed themselves. Most days his father often told him to stay away from stray dogs, warning that they could carry diseases. But something about the sight of the mother dog and her puppies stirred something deep inside him. She wasn't threatening, she wasn't barking or growling, she was pleading, her eyes full of desperation and exhaustion. Ravi placed his bike on its side and stepped closer, his sandals crunching on the dry ground. The mother dog tensed but didn't move, her body too weak to do more than watch him. "You're hungry, aren't you, Ravi? You're hungry," whispered, even though he knew she couldn't answer. He reached into his pocket and pulled out the only food he had, a small piece of roy wrapped in cloth. It wasn't much, but it was all he had left from his lunch. He crouched down a safe distance away and placed the roy on the ground. The mother dog sniffed the air, her nose twitching slowly. She stretched her neck out and grabbed the food, chewing weakly. But quickly Ravi noticed she didn't eat all. She tore a piece off and nudged it toward her puppies, who nibbled at it with tiny mouths. "They're just babies. They're just babies," Ravi murmured. "You've been trying to take care of them." The sight broke his heart. He stood up and looked around, as if searching for someone else to help. But the area was deserted. It was up to him now. He stepped back to his bike, his mind racing. His family wouldn't be happy if he brought stray dogs home, but he couldn't leave them here, not like this. He decided to get help. "I'll be back," Ravi said softly, as if making a promise. He climbed onto his bike and began pedaling toward the village, his legs pumping hard against the resistance of the sandy road. Behind him the mother, a mother dog with puppies. Dog watched him go, her eyes filled with a flicker of hope for the first time in days. Ravi pedaled as fast as his legs would allow, the midday sun beating down on him. The road stretched ahead, dusty and empty, but his mind was focused on one thing: finding help for the mother dog and her puppies. He reached the edge of his village, where houses with thatched roofs and small gardens stood in neat rows. As he stopped outside his neighbor's house, an older man, Mr. Capper, was sitting on a stool mending a fishing net. "Uncle Capper," Ravi called, panting from the heat and the ride. The man looked up, his hands pausing their work. "What's the hurry, boy? You look like you've seen a ghost." "There's a dog," Ravi said, trying to catch his breath. "A mother dog with puppies. She's starving by the dried riverbed. They'll die if we don't do something." Mr. Capper squinted at Ravi, wiping his hands. "Cloth astray, you say, Ravi? You know we don't have much ourselves. It's not easy to take on that kind of burden." Ravi's voice trembling. "But they'll die," Ravi said, his voice trembling. "She's so thin, and the puppies can't even stand. We can't just leave them there." Mr. Capper sighed heavily. All right, I'll see what I can do. Wait here." He disappeared into his house and returned a moment later with a sack of leftover rice and a small metal bowl. "Take this to her. It's not much, but it'll keep them alive for now." Ravi took the sack gratefully. "Thank you, Uncle, but listen, Mr. Capper warned you can't bring them here. Strays can be dangerous, and people in the village won't be happy about it." Ravi's heart sank. Nodded, though his heart sank a little. He knew Uncle Capper was right, but he couldn't just leave them out there forever. He had to figure out a plan. With the sack of rice balanced carefully on his bike, Ravi rode back to the riverbed. The sight of the mother dog and her puppies hit him just as hard. The second the mother dog perked up slightly when she saw him return, her ears twitching weakly. "I told you I'd come back," Ravi said softly. He poured some rice into the metal bowl and placed it in front of her. The mother dog sniffed it and began eating, though her movements were still slow and exhausted. She nudged some of the food toward her puppies, who began nibbling at the grains. Ravi sat cross-legged a few feet away, watching them eat. His mind was racing. Food would help for now, but they needed more than that. They needed a safe place to rest, water, and someone to care for them until they got stronger. As he sat there, an idea began to form in his mind. His friend Maya lived on the outskirts of the village, where her family had a small barn and a lot of space. Maybe she could help. Ravi stood up and dusted off his hands. "Stay here," he said to the mother dog, as though she could understand. "I'll find a way to get you somewhere safe." He rode to Maya's house, his legs aching from the effort, but his determination pushing him forward. When he arrived, he found Mara outside feeding the chickens in her yard. "Ravi, what's going on?" she asked, surprised to see him. Ravi quickly explained everything: the dried riverbed, the starving dog, and the fragile puppies. Mira's expression shifted from curiosity to concern. "Poor things," she said, setting down the basket of chicken feed. "But how can we help your barn?" Ravi said. "It's empty, isn't it? They could stay there for now, just until they get better." Mira hesitated. "I'll have to ask my parents, but I think they'll say yes if we take care of them ourselves." "Please ask," Ravi urged. "I'll help with everything, I promised." Maya ran inside, and a few minutes later she came back out, smiling. "They said yes, but we'll have to keep it clean and make sure they don't bother the other animals." Relief washed over Ravi. "Thank you, Mira. Leeton, go get them." The two of them found an old cart in the barn and loaded it onto Mira's bicycle. Together they rode back to the riverbed. The mother dog lifted her head when she saw them, her eyes filled with cautious hope Ravi and Merera worked, carefully wrapping the puppies in an old blanket. Mera had brought the mother dog, let out a soft whine but didn't resist as they gently lifted her into the cart. Along with her, the ride back. Puppies, it's okay, Mera whispered, we're going to take you somewhere safe. The ride back to Mira's barn was slow, but the cart shielded the little family from the harsh sun. Ravi rode alongside it, keeping an eye on the mother dog as she watched him with quiet trust. When they reached the barn, Merera spread out fresh straw in a corner and placed a bowl of water nearby. The mother dog lay down with her puppies curling protectively around them. For the first time she seemed to relax. They're going to be okay, Maya said, smiling at Ravi. Not just yet, Ravi replied, but we're giving them a chance. The barn was quiet save for the soft breathing of the mother dog and her puppies. The little family was finally safe, their fragile bodies resting on a bed of clean straw. Merera and Ravi sat nearby, watching them with a mix of relief and determination. They're so tiny, Mira said, her voice soft. It's hard to believe they survived out there. They fighters, Ravi replied, just like their mom. She didn't give up on them. Over the next few days, Ravi and Mera worked tirelessly to care for the dogs. Ravi brought food from home, whatever scraps he could spare, while Mera cleaned the barn and made sure the mother dog had plenty of water. They took turns checking on the puppies, who grew stronger with each passing day. Words spread through the village about the little family in Mira's barn. At first people were skeptical. Why waste time and food on strays, some asked, but as the days went by, others began to see the compassion in Ravi and Mera's actions. Slowly a few neighbors even offered help. A bag of rice here, an old blanket there. One evening as the sun set in brilliant hues of orange and pink, Ravi sat in the barn with the mother dog. He had named her Maya, name that meant love and felt fitting for a creature who had given everything to protect her puppies. Maya looked up at him, her eyes warm and grateful. Her puppies, now more active, stumbled around on wobbly legs, nipping at each other and letting out time barks. You've got a strong family, Maya, Ravi said, smiling. You all just needed someone to give you a chance. The next morning Merera arrived with exciting news. Ravi, the vet is coming to check on them. My parents called him after hearing how much better the puppies are doing. When the vet arrived, he carefully examined Maya and her puppies. They malnourished, but they're recovering well, he said. You've done a great job. With a bit more care, they'll be strong enough to be adopted. Ravi asked, his heart sinking slightly. Yes, the vet said, the puppies are young enough to find homes, and even Maya could be adopted by someone willing to care for her dogs like her. Make wonderful companions. Ravi nodded, though the thought of saying goodbye to them made his chest feel heavy. He had grown attached to Maya and her puppies, but he knew the vet was right. They deserved homes where they could be loved and cared for. As weeks turned into months, the puppies grew strong and playful, their tiny tails wagging furiously whenever Ravi or Mira entered the barn. With the help of the vet and the villagers, each puppy found a loving home. One by one they were adopted by families who promised to give them the lives they deserved. On the day the last puppy left, Ravi sat in the barn with Maya. She rested her head on his lap, her eyes calm but a little sad. They're all gone now, Ravi said softly, stroking her fur. But they're safe, just like you wanted. Merera stepped into the barn, holding a small bag of treats. My parents have been talking, she said, smiling. They think Maya should stay here. She's already part of the family. Ravi's heart lifted. Really? Mira nodded. She can live here in the barn and you can come visit anytime. Maya seemed to understand. She licked Ravi's hand and let out a soft, contented sigh. In the months that followed, Maya became a fixture in the village. She roamed freely but always returned to the barn her safe haven. The villagers, once indifferent to her plight, now greeted her with smiles and occasional treats. She had become a symbol of resilience, a reminder of what kind could achieve. One evening Ravi stood at the edge of the dried riverbed where it had all begun. The cracked earth was still there, but now it seemed less desolate. He thought about how close Maya and her puppies had come to being, forgotten, left to the cruelty of the world, but they hadn't been forgotten. Someone had cared enough to stop to act, to help. As he walked back to the barn, he thought about what he had learned. It didn't take much to make a difference. Just a little time, a little effort, and a heart willing to try. Maya greeted him at the barn door, her tail wagging gently. Ravi knelt down and hugged her. "You've taught me so much," he said softly. "I'll never forget it. Kindness is powerful. Sometimes it's all that stands between life and loss. If you ever see someone, animal or human, in need, remember that your actions can change their story. A small effort can create a ripple of hope that touches more lives than you can imagine."